I'd like to introduce you all to this guy, a shiny Poochyena from Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire. This specific Pooch is encountered when selecting your starter, but this shiny is actually dreaded by hunters due to its one unfortunate property. It's impossible to catch. This is what we know as an uncatchable shiny Pokemon. While you might know a few other instances like this, what if I told you there were way more than you may think? I spent over 7 months researching and planning this one video, looking into every obscure detail of the mainline and spin-off Pokemon games. So let's not waste any more time and look into every shiny Pokemon that'll never be caught. Quickly before we start, I think it's important we look into what an uncatchable shiny means, especially in the context of this video. In the list I've compiled, I'm exclusively going over shiny Pokemon you can only find by chance, that under no circumstances you can ever catch. With things like Safari Shinies, for example, which have the chance to flee but also have a chance to be caught, they're not truly, by definition, uncatchable. I'm also leaving out Pokemon that are guaranteed to always be shiny, such as the Execute in Pony Village or the shiny Espeon in the Trainer Tower, just to name a few. Also, shiny lock Pokemon, which can never be shiny, are not the same as uncatchable shinies. But now that we've established our guidelines, let's hop into the first game with an uncatchable shiny, and fittingly, it's the generation that introduced shinies as a whole. Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal all feature a catching tutorial where an NPC teaches you how to catch a Rattata. This Rattata, as you may have guessed, has a 1 in 8192 chance of being shiny. Since this is practically a cutscene, all you can do is sit back and watch the NPC catch the Rattata, making it uncatchable. Interestingly, this catching tutorial is completely optional, as you could just say no to him, meaning the chance at an uncatchable shiny is also completely optional. Probably one of the reasons why only 2 people on the internet, me and this random dude, have ever found this shiny Rattata. Anyway, we're now at our first spin-off game that has uncatchable shinies, being Pokémon Stadium 2. In Stadium 2, you're able to take on the Challenge Cup, where you're pitted against a wide variety of trainers. Sometimes these trainers have a 1 in 8192 chance at owning a shiny Pokemon. If you have the misfortune of seeing an opposing trainer send out a shiny Pokemon with its distinct sparkles, since the game is all about battling and not catching, you can't catch it. In Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, we're starting off strong with the uncatchable shiny Poochyena everyone knows. This Poochyena is encountered when people do soft resets for the shiny starters in this game, and if you're unfortunate enough to run into this Pooch, you have no Pokeballs to actually catch it. Poochyena isn't the only uncatchable shiny in this game though. Later down the storyline, your dad tasks you with helping your rival Wally catch a Pokemon. The Pokemon Wally encounters will always be a Ralts, and of course it has a chance to be shiny. Unlike Gen 2's catching tutorial, this one is completely mandatory. If you thought that was already bad enough, how about the chance at another uncatchable shiny in the exact same catching tutorial? That's right, the Zigzagoon that your dad gives to Wally also has a chance to be shiny. Continuing on, once you get to the post-game of Ruby and Sapphire, you get access to the Battle Tower. You can fight a wide variety of trainers here, but unfortunately for you, they can sometimes send out a shiny Pokemon. Of course, since it's unethical and probably illegal to steal someone's Pokemon, you can't catch it, so all you can do is feint it. All of these uncatchable shinies have a 1 in 8192 chance of appearing. In Pokémon Colosseum, the way how its only type of uncatchable shiny works is very odd, so bear with me as I try to explain. When fighting against a trainer with a shadow Pokemon, the Pokemon they send out will always be shiny locked in the first battle with them. However, if you fail to catch the shadow Pokemon in this first battle, you can initiate a rematch battle. In these rematch battles, the shiny lock for their shadow Pokemon is removed, meaning the opposing trainer can actually send out a shadow shiny Pokemon at a 1 in 8192 chance. But there's a problem with that. In Pokémon Colosseum, the Pokemon's true stats, including its shiny status, is only revealed after you catch it. That's why when you see people shiny hunting in this game, the non-shiny shadow Pokemon they catch suddenly turn shiny once added to their party. When we're in a rematch battle though, even if the opposing trainer's shadow Pokemon appears shiny on the battlefield, the stats that it determined were set in stone in the first battle. Catching this clearly shiny shadow Pokemon will revert it back to a non-shiny Pokemon once in your party. This makes opposing trainer's shiny shadow Pokemon uncatchable. Now, this was just a very broad generalization of how this all works. There's a lot more scenarios that can happen that I just didn't cover. So if you want a much more in-depth explanation on how Colosseum shinies work, check out this video by Oliver MKP that I've linked in the description below. In Pokemon FireRed and LeafGreen, there's an old man in Viridian City that teaches you a tutorial on how to catch a Weedle. And of course, it has the chance to be a shiny Weedle. Now, after this old man steals your shiny Weedle, he gives you an item known as the Teachy TV. This item allows the player to watch a series hosted by a Pokédude, who gives a wide variety of lessons on in-game mechanics. The Pokemon he encounters in his show, as you probably guessed, have the chance to be shiny. Oddly enough, if he encounters a shiny, it won't sparkle at all. Those aren't the only uncatchable shinies in the Teachy TV though, as the Pokemon the Pokédude sends out also has the chance to be shiny. This time around, when he sends them out, they do actually sparkle. Now, moving along, after progressing in the story to the Pokemon Tower in Lavender Town, you have to calm the ghost of a Marowak by battling it. This Marowak has the chance to be shiny, and just like the Teachy TV wild encounters, it doesn't sparkle if it's shiny. Now, since this seems like a normal wild encounter, you'd think you'd be able to catch it, however, it dodges any Pokeball thrown at it, making it uncatchable. As always, these uncatchable shinies in FireRed and LeafGreen have a 1 in 8192 chance of appearing. In Pokemon Emerald, many uncatchables from Ruby and Sapphire remain, like Wally's shiny Ralts, his shiny Zigzagoon, and shiny Pokemon in the Battle Tower. However, there are a few changes. The uncatchable Poochyena from the start is now a Zigzagoon, which of course can be shiny. Emerald also introduces the Battle Frontier, adding 6 new battle facilities. Most of these facilities have uncatchable shinies just like the Battle Tower, but in the Battle Pike and Battle Pyramid specifically, you can encounter wild Pokemon that can be shiny. Before you enter the facilities though, you lose access to your bag, meaning you have no Pokeballs to throw. In the Battle Factory, rental Pokemon can also appear shiny, but you can't keep them since they're obviously just rentals. All these uncatchable shinies have a 1 in 8192 chance of appearing. In Pokemon XD, Gale of Darkness, as soon as you start the game, you're put inside a battle simulator. In these battle simulators, you're given a Pokemon to use temporarily, which, yes, can be shiny at a 1 in 8192 chance. There are 10 of these battle simulators players can access at the Pokemon HQ lab, with each acting as a tutorial for basic gameplay elements. And of course, since they're just simulations, you can't keep any of the shinies you find. Further in the game, players can also use battle CDs at Realgam Tower to initiate 50 more battle simulations, with the same chance at having an uncatchable shiny. In Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, shiny hunters had come to find they had yet another uncatchable Pooch situation on their hands if they wanted to shiny hunt the starters. After inspecting Professor Rowan's briefcase and getting attacked by a group of Starly, this Starly has the chance to be shiny at a 1 in 8192 chance. Besides that Starly, there's no other true uncatchable shinies in Diamond or Pearl, so here's a unique one. Later into the game, when you get access to Veilstone City, you can visit the game quarter to play slot machines. Occasionally when playing, a Pokeball will fly up from the bottom of the screen with a chance to pop out 3 different kinds of Clefairy. Out of these 3 kinds, one of them can be a shiny Clefairy. Its purpose is to provide you with a very high chance at getting the bonus round to repeat, and that's it. Despite being a part of the game, I only included this one for fun, since it technically appears by chance and you can't ever catch it. In Pokemon Battle Revolution, when partaking in trainer fights, their Pokemon have the chance to be shiny. What's pretty funny is that you may see the trainer have a shiny in the menu, but they don't end up sending it out in battle, meaning you don't ever get to see it. Also, quick honorable mention to the Colosseum leader's shiny costumes, which are unobtainable specifically in rematch battles with them. All these shinies have a 1 in 8192 chance of appearing. In Pokemon Platinum, the uncatchable shiny Starly we see in Diamond and Pearl has been nuked, since they removed the Starly encounter at the beginning of the game. The shiny slot machine Clefairy still remains though. New to Gen 4, Pokemon Platinum reintroduced the Battle Frontier from Pokemon Emerald, which, yes, still houses uncatchable shinies. Housing these 5 facilities, they all have trainers who can own shiny Pokemon, and just like in Pokemon Emerald's Battle Factory, this Battle Factory can also have shiny rental Pokemon you can't keep. Similarly, these shinies all appear at a 1 in 8192 chance. Interestingly, the WiiWare game Pokémon Rumble has one very specific situation in which an uncatchable shiny can appear. The Pokemon that surround the podium in the credits can be shiny. These Pokemon can appear shiny at a 1 in 8192 chance, and since they're part of a cutscene, you can't catch them. In Pokemon HeartGold and SoulSilver, we yet again see the fateful return of our old friend, the Battle Frontier. There's not much to say since the Battle Frontier is pretty much the exact same one found inside of Pokemon Platinum. This means we can find uncatchable shinies due to the trainers owning a shiny Pokemon and the Battle Factory shiny rental Pokemon. Now, since we're about halfway through this list, I'd just like to take a moment to say that if you've been enjoying it so far, please feel free to like the video and subscribe, as it helps me out a ton. Anyway, in Pokemon Black and White, the first uncatchable shiny you can find can appear before you even pick your gender and name, as the Minccino Professor Juniper throws out during the beginning of the game has a chance to be shiny. Playing into the story just a tiny bit, Professor Juniper shows you how to catch a Pokemon. And yep, you heard that right, yet another catch tutorial shiny. The Patrat she encounters has a chance to be shiny, but not only that, the Minccino she throws out also has a chance to be shiny. These uncatchables all can be shiny at a 1 in 8192 chance. Now, into Gen 5 sequel, in Pokemon Black 2 and White 2, the Pokemon Professor Juniper throws out at the beginning of the game is now a Cinccino, which can still be shiny. Also, this time around, Bianca is there to show you how to catch a Pokemon instead of Professor Juniper. The Purloin she runs into can be shiny, as well as the Lillipup she uses. Even though Black 2 and White 2 introduced the shiny charm, they have no effect on any uncatchable shinies in this game, making them a 1 in 8192 chance to be shiny. Looking into our first Mystery Dungeon game of this list, in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Gates to Infinity, players can take on a job request titled Legend of the Mysterious Ruins, where Ho-Oh can appear at the Eternal Ruins. There is a chance, however, that this Ho-Oh is a shiny variant. According to this single GameFAQs post I found, the chances of this occurring are somewhere between 5 to 10%. Don't really know how credible that is, but we'll roll with it. You can in no way recruit the shiny Ho-Oh to your team, and can only defeat it to continue, making it uncatchable. And now, we enter the era of 3D mainline Pokemon games. In Pokemon X and Y, when approaching Route 2, either Callum or Serena, depending on your character's gender, will stop you and show you how to catch Pokemon. And as I'm sure you've guessed by now, the Bunnelby that they encounter has a chance of being shiny. Of course, following tradition, the Fletchling that Callum or Serena uses can also be shiny as well. With the shiny chance being split in half now, these uncatchable shinies have a 1 in 4096 chance of appearing. I bet you weren't expecting this one. In Pokemon Magikarp Jump, you can feed your Magikarp to level it up. Sometimes a Manaphy swims into your pond, and when you tap on it, you can activate a food fever. During these food fevers, 2 different kinds of Pokemon, Corsola or Luvdisc, appear at random and drop you off berries. Occasionally, these 2 Pokemon have the possibility of being shiny. Of course, being a game all about Magikarp, why would you want to be able to catch these guys? Like, come on. Also, during a separate event, you can encounter a lost Luvdisc, who asks for your help. Just like the Food Frenzy Luvdisc, this one also has a chance of being shiny as well. Absolutely scouring the internet, I wasn't able to find their shiny chance, but they seem to be decently common enough. Now, interestingly enough, the original Pokemon Sun and Moon games have no uncatchable shinies, so we're off to Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. These games introduced a new feature where after completing Sophocles' trial in Ula Ula Island, you'll gain access to the battle agency inside the festival plaza. Similar to the battle factory from Hoenn and Sinnoh, this agency allows you to rent Pokemon to take into the battles against other trainers. Also like Hoenn and Sinnoh, these rental Pokemon you could take, but can't keep, have the chance to be shiny. It's unknown whether having the shiny charm affects the chance of this happening or not, so we'll say it's a 1 in 4096 chance just to play it safe. Moving to the Nintendo Switch titles, we'll take a look at Pokémon Sword and Shield, which surprisingly has more uncatchable shinies than you may think. In these games, there's a system in place which prevents you from catching higher level Pokémon if you don't have enough badges. These higher level Pokémon turn into strong looking Pokémon, who refuse to let their guard down when trying to be caught. While the strong-looking Pokemon you can find inside the grass are properly shiny locked, the strong-looking Pokemon that spawn alone outside of the grass, dubbed strong spawn Pokemon by the community, can be shiny. If you get the shiny charm in Sirchester, these uncatchables can actually be shiny at a 1 in 1365 chance. Otherwise, they stay at the 1 in 4096 base chance. In the Isle of Armor DLC, there's an NPC that, if you haven't completed your Isle of Armor Pokédex yet, can give you a Pokédex entry for 100 watts. These Pokédex entries do have the chance to be shiny and won't sparkle or anything when registered. What's even worse is that after they're registered, they won't stay shiny in your Pokédex, making this a very one-off and specific uncatchable shiny. We don't know if these Pokédex entries are affected by shiny charm, but it's safe to assume they aren't and appear at the 1 in 4096 chance. After the Crown Tundra DLC was released, there were 2 wild area events that contained uncatchable shiny Pokemon. On April 2nd, 2022, a wild area raid event featuring a Gigantamax Cinderace was made available. This Cinderace was coded to forcibly flee after its defeat and couldn't be caught, but could be shiny. Another wild area raid event featuring a Gigantamax Urshifu happened on June 17th, 2022. It also forcibly fled after its defeat and could also be shiny. But the irony of it is that you couldn't even get shiny Urshifu under normal gameplay means. Interestingly, Game Freak would go on to shiny lock Urshifu a few hours later, which makes this the first and only patched uncatchable shiny Pokemon. Also, no, I'm not counting the Zeraora raids, since these specific raids were forced to be shiny 5% of the time. Both the previously mentioned raid events could be shiny at a 1 in 4096 chance. Unfortunately, since they were time-limited events, they're no longer available to be found. In Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Rescue Team DX, you can find and recruit shiny Pokemon, but only under very specific circumstances. When playing the game, you can encounter strong foes, which can never be recruited. Strong foes are the only Pokemon in this game, apart from Celebi, that can be shiny. When shiny, they just so happen to be recruitable, but only if you have one specific item, the Friend Bow. If you don't have the Friend Bow, and you find a shiny strong foe, you may as well kiss it goodbye. The chance at which shinies appear seems to be fairly decent, but the exact numbers aren't known. In Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, as it's a remake of the original Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum games, we see the return of an uncatchable shiny. The Starly you encounter at the beginning of the game after choosing your starter can be shiny again, and is still uncatchable just like the original games. Surprisingly, this game introduced another uncatchable shiny absent from the original Gen 4 games, being the Bidoof that Dawn or Lucas catches in the catching tutorial. This next one I'll bring up because I know I'll get comments about it if I don't. Despite one hard-to-verify Reddit post, every source I've checked, including data mines, say Shadow Giratina in Ramanas Park is shiny locked. If anyone wants to prove me wrong, feel free to try and shiny hunt it, though you may be chasing something impossible. Anyway, Starly and Bidoof have a 1 in 4096 chance to be shiny. For Pokemon Legends Arceus, it doesn't really have much to dish out. There are times where you can find a shiny over a gap of water without access to Basculegion, but if you get creative enough, you can actually catch them, so that doesn't really count. In terms of truly uncatchable shinies, in the Alabaster Icelands within Snowpoint Temple, there's a chance that Pokemon can spawn shiny in the basement area, which is only unlocked in the post-game to catch Regigigas. If you haven't gotten to the post-game yet, you can't access the basement, which means you can't catch the shiny Pokemon at all. The chances of these shinies, of course, range depending on your research level for that species and if you have the shiny charm. In Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, during the Titan quest, the Pokemon that Arven sends out has the chance of being shiny. The unfortunate thing is that because these camera angles are so garbage, it's extremely difficult to see Arven's Pokemon and even check if it's shiny. If that wasn't bad enough, the Titan Pokemon can also technically be shiny. These shiny Titans don't actually ever appear shiny or sparkle or anything, so how could one possibly find it shiny? Well, the answer comes through its Pokédex registration. There's a chance that the Titan Pokemon you fight is secretly shiny, but doesn't look like one. And the only way to know it is when you view its Pokédex entry, it will suddenly have a registration for the shiny variant. In both cases, neither the Titan Pokemon or Arven's Pokemon sparkle, and both are, of course, uncatchable. Both of these uncatchables can be shiny at a 1 in 4096 chance. Once the Indigo Disc DLC came out, it introduced one new uncatchable shiny. During the Blueberry quest, and specifically during online play, the players in the Union Circle can be tasked with a group quest to find 4 Ditto blocks. Of course, Game Freak made these be able to be shiny at a 1 in 100 chance. Since you can't encounter these ditto blocks, they can't be caught, and disappear at the end of the group quest. Also, people may argue out-of-range shinies when using the Synchro Machine could be considered uncatchable, and well, in some cases they may be depending on where they spawn, or the species of Pokemon they are. You may be able to lure the shiny back to your character. Last but not least is our most recent Pokemon game as of the making of this video, Pokémon Sleep. This game only features one uncatchable shiny, which happens to be the mascot of the game itself, Snorlax. Sometimes when your Snorlax changes every week, there's a chance it could be a shiny Snorlax. The exact chance of this happening isn't known, but unfortunately, unlike other shinies you can catch in this game, this Snorlax will leave you at the end of the week, making it uncatchable. Now, with the specific kinds of uncatchables all done, we'll go over some uncatchable shiny Pokemon that are able to be found in pretty much every mainline Pokemon entry. The first and most common way to find an uncatchable shiny in any game is by not having any Pokeballs in your bag. Not having any Pokeballs means you obviously can't catch it. Secondly, any instance in which you're able to see multiple Pokemon at once prior to Legends Arceus could also result in an uncatchable shiny. Some examples include double battles, Poke Radar, Horde encounters, SOS encounters, and Dynamax adventures, where if you find more than one shiny Pokemon, you can only leave with one shiny Pokemon. As far as those go, that's pretty much all of them that I can think of. Of course, I'm not perfect, and I've almost certainly missed an uncatchable that appears in some obscure spinoff. So if you know any I didn't mention, feel free to comment down below. Also, I can't guarantee the future of uncatchable shinies, as we have games releasing like Pokemon Legends ZA. Just as a quick side note, I am aware there's some glitches in Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, Brilliant Diamond, and Shining Pearl that allow you to catch specific uncatchable shiny Pokemon, but I won't be going over them since it's not really in the spirit of this video. If you want to learn more about those glitches though, I'll link the guides down in the description below. Well, there you have it. As far as my own research goes, that's every single uncatchable shiny Pokemon you can find in every Pokemon game. Also, huge thanks to my buddy, Tyler That's It, for providing me with a lot of the footage for this video. I couldn't have done it without him. If you've enjoyed this video and want to see more just like it, consider liking the video and subscribing. If you're interested in seeing more informative style videos from me, check out this video on screen, where I explain why wild shinies with star sparkles in Pokémon Sword and Shield are practically impossible to get. Or if you'd like to see some shiny hunting content, try this video where I go and catch every shiny pseudo-legendary Pokemon across every Nintendo Switch Pokemon title. With that all said and done, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all later. Happy hunting.